Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for all this patronage for the last 7 years. As things change, we also keep on changing. Now, today, we are bringing you one of the new changes, the changes of a new show, a show called The Bold Step. The Bold Step is simply a show that will tell you how boldly has Africa solved its problems. Have we been bold enough to say enough is enough? How far and when can we say enough is enough? Shall we go on writing lamentation books? Shall we go on begging? Shall we go on telling people we have given up? Shall we give up? This show invites you to bring your only one bold step that you made as a human being, whether Miriam, whether who, and our viewers outside there. What bold step have you made? Have you made a bold step to go towards a new education, to acquire your papers, to be able to serve the community? How many people have you served? How many people have you helped to engage themselves? What have you done for the world? What can you do and what is left for you to do? The bold step from the Pan-African perspective of Dr. David Masanga will be airing every Tuesday and a Thursday at the hours shown. And as I speak now, I think that my people should bring that photograph on the screen, not wait. People should see it there all the time. The bold step, you can call us and call in and tell us, what is your new story? What bold step have you ever taken as a human being, whether collectively, individually, or as a country? Africa faces those challenges. And those challenges, Miriam, are the best challenges to teach us as a teacher on our way forward. Is Africa going to stick the same way as it has been? Or will Africa remain in lamentation as it has been? Are we writing a new chapter of where we say enough is enough? If we have been suffering, can we continue to suffer at the expense of people who have everything, but they did not, it did not, the country, them, and him or her, they did not help you. But did you help others? That's the bold step. Tell us more about what type of bold step you have taken as an individual, as a country, as a corporate, as an institution, as Safaricom. Anybody out there, come in and tell us, Miriam, as a student leader, as a person studying international relations, what bold step do you think you can in the future take to make sure that Africa is better? This is The Bold Step by Dr. David Masanga. And that is the show that is coming after Miriam Ogutu has done her housekeeping, told us the headlines in Africa, told us how many presidents have gone to the US, how many will wake up today from their hotels across Manhattan, across Washington, D.C. How are the demonstrations preparing, gearing towards the welcome of some of them who will enter the White House through back doors because of their human rights records? It is happening. It is going to happen today. But the only person who can bring this news, however grim they are, is none than Miriam Ogutu. Good morning, Miriam Ogutu in Nairobi, Kenya.
Doc, a very good morning to you, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our viewers.
Thank you very much. Take the cue. We have news in Africa, we have news in Kenya, we have news, and then you also have news about the bold step. What do you think about the bold step? What bold step can somebody get? Where can we go? You hear so many things in Africa, elections, bungled, conflicts going on. How soon, how long shall we take a bold step to stop these malpractices. Corruption is the order of the day. Censor motions is the order of the day. Is that not us making non-bold steps to clean our mess? Miriam, back to you. I am quiet. I am zip. I land my mic.
Okay, and before we get further with the show, Doc, as we look at the bold step perhaps Africa needs to take or has taken or should take moving forward, let me first bring us up to date with the latest headlines on the newspapers today very quickly. Daily Nation from Kenya, Ruto's plan to lower food prices, and then backstory of Azimio's loss in election. That is what we have. And Kenyan fated for schools a tech project. Nelly Cheboy quit top job to set up computer labs for children. That story is on page 8. The Star newspaper, Ruto, I have fulfilled 5 pledges in 90 days. Cites police reforms, agriculture subsidies, and appointment of judges. You'll find that on page 4 and 5. Why Kaiseri widow didn't want the CS to watch news. That is on page 2. And then that is what you have there. The Standard newspaper, hits and misses of Ruto's 90 days. You'll find that on page 2 to 8. Raila criticizes new attempt to change constitution. That is on page 9. And hurdles in way of peace in DRC. You'll find that on page 28. And CNN hero Cheboy fated for taking technology to villages. That is what we have on the front pages of Kenya's newspapers. And then we look at some regional newspapers. New Day from Zimbabwe. Pearl aired in laptops. That is according to, I think, President. The Herald, also from Zimbabwe, Zim contains missiles outbreak. And then the Daily News from Zimbabwe as well. ZANU-PF broods over ZEC zoning. The Nation from Nigeria, 5 killed in attack on another INEC office in Southeast. And then PDP crisis, Wike Okowa Otomin airport drama. The Punch from Nigeria as well. INEC PDP offices raised, scores killed in Southeast Kaduna. And then the New Times from Rwanda, hunger pitch fest, a path to innovation-led opportunities. And the New Vision from Uganda, Umeme exit, what next for shareholders. And the Citizen from Tanzania, key issues as Biden hosts 49 African leaders. Heads of African governments today convene for dialogue with the U.S. as President Joe Biden looks to table issues at the core of U.S.-Africa relations. That is what we have on some of the regional newspapers. Doc, back to you.
Thank you very much, Miriam. The regional newspapers are loaded with quite a lot of exciting information, which our readers can pick copies online. Let me concentrate on the British newspapers. The Daily Telegraph says taxis may be used as ambulances in strike. Have we reached here? This is what is happening in Britain today, that we are going to a winter of discontent. If you look at outside through your window in London, Miriam, you would rather gather inside your house 10 blankets and a cover so that you don't see what is outside there. It is really white snow. Some planes have been diverted to some other places where there is visibility. And then that is the Telegraph. We shall use taxis. And the Sunak set for deal to speed up return of Albanian migrants. You see, a mistake was made. They sent these people to be slaughtered and some of them to be taken to Rwanda. Have you seen the problem? People are saying, no, this is not very good. A man has run away from persecution. Then you take him to a country which is more persecuting, which persecutes more. It kills its own nationals every day through assassination plots laid outside their countries. Surely the people of Britain have spoken, and the Prime Minister is reversing that. I think that's a good one for the people who were caught up in Catch-22. And a government report blames NHS crisis on torrid decade of neglect. A government report itself said this government, a government report. Can you have something in Africa, bold step? Can we have a bold step where a government institution in Africa tells the president that you appointed me, but you are very dangerous. You are the one who is calling this, who is eating the money, who is stealing the money. Can we have a bold step in Africa? You see, here in Britain, Miriam, there is a bold step. A government institution itself, the ombudsman, says no. The neglect is because of the government, the Tory people, the Conservative Party being in power for too long and recycling their leaders from David Cameron, who ordered for America and Britain planes to bomb Libya and apologized later and changed it to Boris Yeltsin, changed to Theresa May, changed to so many of these men have been recycled. And now you can count the number of British prime ministers, Miriam. Can you remember all of them in the last few? Because some of them have been there for only 3 months, and 1 month, 2 months, they are gone. The neglect, the report, a government institution. Imagine a government institution like, which one can we say in your country, Miriam? Which has been mandated to criticize. Can it criticize and the president lives there, he will disband it this following morning? Can there be a government institution in Uganda that will come and say, okay, they like the Uganda Revenue Authority to say, don't blame us, blame the government, we collect the money, but the money is eaten by the government. That is what is on this newspaper in Britain of The Guardian. It says government report blames National Health Services crisis on Tory decade of neglect. Hala, which it can never happen here. It can never happen on the continent of Africa. Walai, you will just be in jail the following day. This is a tragedy beyond our words. A younger guy, heroic 10-year-old boy died trying to save children who fell through the frozen lake. You see, casualty number 1, casualties have started. Frozen lake, on top it is frozen, but you think it is frozen, but when you step there, the winter, the ice melts and you go deep in the lake. But this 10-year-old went down swimming, trying to bring the bigger people, you can imagine, and the other children. That is very heroic. He will be given a medal. But what bold step can Africa give you when you go and stand for them anywhere? Do you get anything? Do you even get half a medal? Miriam, have you ever been given half a medal? The medals are given to people who do what? They do favors, but not heroic events. Ha! We shall see. You see, this topic is very bold. It's very good. You can touch anywhere. Anywhere. You find a person in Africa on the road dying, you pull out your money and tell the Uber man to carry him, but he will never come back and say thank you. You take a bold step to clean Africa, but Africa doesn't clean itself. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Daily Express of Britain. The Daily Mail of Britain talks about frozen Britain grinds to halt. Frozen Britain grinds to halt. Indeed, flights are cancelled, drivers stranded for 8 hours, and today striking rail unions will selfishly pile on the misery that we have in the United Kingdom today. So in short, stay where you are. Don't think of flying to United Kingdom. It has come to a halt. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack 10 died trying to save Iceland. This man died. He went deep in the lake. It killed him. and it took also some of the people. This is heroic, and he deserves a medal, not the type of medals that we give maybe in African states and other places. I have never been given a medal in Uganda, despite the fact that I even went deeper to bring a peace process. They never gave me even a half a medal. In fact, if they gave me a quarter a medal, I would look at it and say, thank you. I don't want to go to that history. As long as there is peace holding, I'm happy man. And I don't want to say anything about something which Miriam was expecting I was going to say. I will not say it. I will keep off. Thank you very much, Miriam. That is the newspapers from United Kingdom. And we are glad our viewers across the continent of Africa, thank you very much for watching. This is The Bold Step by Dr. David Matanga and Miriam Ogutu live in Nairobi, and I live from the Political Command Center on planet Earth. Thank you very much. Let's go for it. Let's show the boldness, the bold step. Have you ever taken one? Do you intend to take one? How many of you want to take a bold step? Do you want to become an MP? Encouragement. This show is to encourage you. This show is, and if you have any idea, you can talk to us, pick up a phone, we set an appointment, you tell us what bold step have you taken to alleviate the lives of the people of Africa. What are the bold steps? Have you ever tried to contribute to a bridge in your county, in your country? There's a killer bridge where people riding on their bicycles fall in the water. But you have huge money on account. The neighbors, Miriam, to take one wire and put in theirs to charge their phone. You charge the neighbors for charging the phone. Several people have put toll stations at their farms and said, hey, you charge for 10 shillings 1 hour. Haven't you seen that, Miriam? Thank you. Let's get going. Get me the experience. Let's start going. Africa, for the last 60 years, has had several steps towards boldness. But these steps in Africa, this is a takeaway, by the way. And let me begin. Africa has had several steps towards boldness. The boldness that we need on African continent has not yielded any fruits so far. We have been independent politically for over 66 years since the first country, Ghana, got independence. But have we ever looked back and said, what have we achieved? What can we achieve? What bold step do we take? We have created organization upon organization. We create ECOWAS. We create East African Community. We create North African and a treaty, North African Cooperation. We create Central Africa Organization, Great Lakes Organization. We create IGAD. We have created all sorts of SADC. We create all sorts of organizations on the continent of Africa. But what bold step have these organizations taken to alleviate, to remove the poverty, the disease, the ignorance? Have we done too much and yet nothing seen on the ground? Have we tried to blow hot air, yet there is cold air? Have we ever been part and parcel of a scheme that can say, I've boldly, successfully done a good election? I've successfully done good governance. I've successfully turned my economy my country is earning. As a president of a country in Africa, have you ever evaluated, have you done any fatigue evaluation as to whether your policies are moving towards a bold step? Are they getting better or worse? How many presidents on the continent of Africa look at this as very constructive, positively? Do we, as citizens of these countries, also heap a lot expectations on our leaders? Do we help them? Do we talk to them? Do we tell them the truth? Do we make judgment? Do institutions work in Africa? How many institutions work? Every time one works, the other one counter works it down. We are pulled down as we walk up. What type of Africa do we need? Is Africa moving in a bold step? Is Africa a bold step process? Is it in a process, or it has never started, or it might not start at all? And this is exactly what we want to know in this show, this Ananigiro. But what about you as a citizen who points fingers at your head of state? Do you look at the other fingers pointing at you? When the rules are made in Africa that don't drive a border when you don't have a helmet, do we sit on these borders? When we know very well that once the border gets an accident, your head breaks into several parts on the tarmac. And then you tell people, Saidia, take me to hospital. Do we make these decisions boldly or timidly? A timid stand remains an African inner circle. I think, Miriam, very few people and the listeners and the viewers have been very bold. Who has been very bold? We have lost most of the leaders on the continent who were bold. Robert Mugabe was bold. But how was Zimbabwe? Gaddafi was very bold. Where is he? He took a bold step to say Africa has reached a stage where Africa must have its own way of governing itself. He was taken down. Where are the leaders that started this bold step? Kwame Nkrumah, overthrown by his own brother-in-law, General Achampong, in 1965, thrown out of Ghana, died in. That has been put in place for Congo to unite. Each Congolese is on his own, and God for us all. Is Africa taking a step towards a bold decision? As we troop into Washington, D.C., at the invitation of President Joe Biden, how many African heads of state will come back and take a bold step and tell us, this is how much I was given publicly, and this is how much I was given privately, and I will invest this money to a clinic. We had President Obama, for example, who was the President of the United States of America. We all had hopes that for the first time in the history of American politics and governance, an American system existence, a black man had risen all the way from Kenya and was leading a superpower. But our hopes were dashed. There was no bold decision made as far as Africa was concerned. Obama left us worse than he found us. He only brought us a swimming pool, which still exists, but maybe the water pumps have died. Do we have a bold step? The only bold step that Obama did was to kill Osama bin Laden. And they said, we've done it. And that is true, because Osama bin Laden killed very many people across the world and directed attacks on several institutions that had nothing to do with his quarrel with the status quo. have we done our bold step? What is your bold step? I land my mic and I thank you very much, all of you, for listening to me on the question of bold step as we discuss, and I open the floor for discussion. That is the bold step. Have you done anything boldly, moved one leg and said, I'm going to school to earn tools of analysis so that tomorrow I can earn a living without begging anybody for a living? Thank you. That you have been able, as an African, that if you were a leader, an MP of your area, what first thing would you do boldly? Would you tell every child to go to school? Will you make sure that clinics are stocked with medicine? It's a pity that some of the clinics in the rural areas, despite the money that is sent there, in North Africa and most of the parts of Africa are empty. If a snake bites you, the anti-poisonous medicine, anti-poison of a snake medicine is not available. It has to be flown from South Africa. Yet the one that was brought was stolen, was sold on black market. A neighbor in the house with a big house in Africa with a fence has stored medicine for malaria, for diabetes, for snake, for everything. But has he taken a bold step to find out the outside the fence whether snakes also bite people? I am bringing a brainstorming session here. Thank you. Miriam.
Okay, well, a couple of things, but I'd just like to speak on one thing that I think a bold step that our former president Uhuru Kenyatta took in line to the education sector here, and I think that is a mark that he has left, that I'm just hoping as a Kenyan that the current administration will build on that and move that forward, because that was very important and effective. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta's government insistence on every child transiting and at least having the basic education, in the sense that every child in Kenya should at least go finish their high school and, if possible, move on to higher learning institutions, or if not, go get a skill in these polytechnic activities that the government had increased their numbers in the different villages and small towns across the country. So I think that was such a bold step, that the reforms that President Kibaki started, President Uhuru Kenyatta took it to the notch, and it's not just making the public education affordable, but also ensuring that all children are able to go to school and are able to transit from kindergarten to primary school. And his aim was to have 100% transition to secondary school. He might not have achieved 100%, but he was very close. And I think the efforts and the extreme that we saw the government, and the intentionality of that we saw the government effecting these reforms, I think was very commendable. And I'm just, my wishes and prayers is that the current administration and the President William Ruto will continue with that. I think that was a very bold step, and this, if we can just push our kids to go to school. And not everybody is gifted as far as education is concerned. Others would like to go do other things. But if at least they can get the basic education that is even up to high school, then they stand a better chance, even whichever path they choose to go with their lives, to have at least the basic comprehension levels, as far as understanding things and doing things in life is concerned. So President Kenyatta understood the importance of that, and we saw that step that his government took. So my prayer is the current government should just build on that and ensure as high as possible the number of children transit to the next stage of their education, because that is the only way we can have a better tomorrow for this generation that is coming up right now. So that is a very commendable, bold step that a former president took as far as improving and advancing the public education and you know, the education in this country as is concerned.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that, you know, upload of His Excellency, the former President of the Republic of Kenya, for having taken a step to improve the education sector in your country. I think for me, from my perspective in my country, because let's talk about security sector and the village cell system of Uganda is very, very effective, Miriam, to the sense that you can steal an item here and you can be found within a few hours because it is traceable. That you can be a stranger in a village and you will be traceable, even if it takes 2 days, somebody will know that you are a stranger, you came here with 5 people. That is a bold step that the government of Uganda has taken as far as security is concerned. That in Uganda, if you visit a village, the LC chairman or local council elder, the cell system of the village where you are seated in the village will know how many visitors came. Who are they? What they look like? Are they Somali? Are they Arab? Are they whites? Are they Chinese? What is the main reason of their coming to the village? They have come to introduce the wife, the daughter of Mr. So and so. How many people are attending the meeting? About 50, 60 villagers. Where will they go next? But I mean, Miriam, this is a system. We must give a credit where it is due. It is a system that works so well in my country that once you reach there, you will be asked by a local. You can't, for example, you want to get an ID, a replacement of an ID. In Kenya, I don't know how you do it. You go to the chief and the chief signs the letter. Just there. You can even be on the phone and the chief will give you the letter. But here in Uganda, you must physically be present. And the chief will ask you, where did the other ID go? The LC one, before he signs the letter. Because this letter is taken up to the bureau that issues the IDs or passport or whatever documentation you are talking about. Without the LC1, LC2, LC3, and LC4 and LC5, which is the district. So, Miriam, if you are thinking of going to steal something in Uganda, you better be able to manage those 5 steps before you come out with a commodity that you wanted to steal. That, to me, is a bold step in security that had killed our country for a long time. Another bold step that President Museveni took in my country is to make sure that Karamoja, an area that used to be without food, a lot of cattle rustling, where Karamojons used to come to Kenya, steal cows from Turkana, and they called it a sport, a cultural sport. That is very normal for Turkana also to go to. He collected all of them from the villages. If you are not in this camp and you show us where the gun is, where you have dug those 10 guns, you will not go back to your village. You will stay there. And by leaders. Not every leader, not all leaders are bad. Yes, there are people who are bad. They have done bad things. There are things, Miriam, that have been done, including killing of people. But there are good things that leaders have done that we must give credit to. Heroically, the Karamojongs returned the guns. Cattle rustling was over. As you return the guns, you are given seeds for cabbage, seeds for tomato, seeds for onions, seeds for maize, seeds to go and plant. And while this was going on, back in the villages, His Excellency President and the wife were digging boreholes, Miriam, in every village. Believe me or not, let's be honest. The only area in the same arid areas of north of our countries, which has got borehole in every village, is Karamoja. There's water. Don't give an excuse that I'm moving my animals to Kenya to go and look for water. No, there's water flowing, river. A big river has been formed for years because this type of boreholes were made that there's an electronic system that pumps the water to fill the other place other than this, the manual type of thing where it could even throw you the other side. So Miriam, that is a bold step. This is the purpose of this program, the bold step. What bold step have you taken in your country to make Kenya, to make Uganda, to make Ethiopia, to make Somalia, to make Nigeria, to make Ghana peaceful or progressive economically, politically, and other things that come and follow ours? That is the story of what boldness means, a step forward, a bold step made. Since then, the Karamojong have learned, not that they are no cattle rustling. They are, even in New York. The presidents who have gone in Washington, if they walk badly in the streets of Washington, D.C., their wallets will not come back. Yes. They will steal your wallet. They can even steal your bag. They are Jamaican, they are black guys there and the white guys there in Washington, D.C., who specialize in stealing. They can steal. They don't care who you use, the president. Because there the population is huge. They don't know who the president of Africa is. The only thing that they will see you is with so many men with suits and the jackets and with maybe pistols. Then they can fear you, but they can steal you if they take you in the alley and they say, bring the wallet, bring this, bring this. You can end up without your passport. And then you get a free exit paper from your embassy. So these are the things that happen that we are going to look at in this program. And today, since being the inaugural part of it, Miriam, we have tried to identify, and we try to identify so that next week on Thursday, you really know there are good things that people have done. For example, you have talked about education. How many people remember President Uhuru Kenyatta for the policy on education to encourage people to go to school? How many? That is you in Kenya. But look at Uganda. How many people? Security. You can blame President Museveni for everything. You can't even blame him that the rain did not come because he stopped it. That's okay. But when it comes to security, you can't steal somebody's thing and run away with it without the village knowing who stole. Because in the village, all of you know each other. So that's a bold step to educate the masses. Honestly, you can steal, but somebody in the village, one person, will come and tell this LC man that, you know the other lady with a yellow, a pink dress, she was the one I saw coming out of that car. And they had two other people, we don't know where they came from. Please, check that car. The car number has been taken. He was arrested. I think he was jailed for 7 years back in Kenya. But it took the Kenya police long time to trace the car. But once it crossed Uganda, every villager said, we saw it going that way. Another one said, yes, it was here for a few days. Another one said, it bought here beans, it bought potatoes, it bought some food packed in the boot. and the number is this. It changed the number by the time it arrived here. That is the type of boldness we are talking about. And this show, therefore, will be educating the community to find out how bold are you to help the country where you are in Africa. How bold, one bold step. Thank you very much. Unless you have something also to add on, Miriam, another thing, or supplemented to that, back to you, and then you can add on, and maybe something has tickled you as I talked about the Ugandan security. Say it, please. Thank you.
Yeah, on security, not necessarily of Ugandan security, but ECOWAS a couple of days ago decided to establish a regional peacekeeping force to fight terrorism and restore democracy after the many military coups in West Africa, which I think it's quite a bold step. Alas, it has come a bit too late. Hopefully that is something they would have done much earlier because of the increased insecurity and instability that we've seen in so many of the countries in ECOWAS. But still, I think it's a very important move that ECOWAS has made. But perhaps my concern is the level of commitment that maybe some of the member states will exhibit so that this force can actually be effective in terms of, they're saying, restoring democracy and also fight terrorism, which I think is a key thing. So if these countries are really able to come together, and this move is quite commendable and quite bold, if they can really come together and put their efforts in fighting the extremist activities in the ECOWAS region, I think that will save us half the problem and insecurity problems that we are experiencing in this continent. But I think more than anything, they need to speak in one voice and they need to have one common vision. We've seen countries like Nigeria not being under the current leadership, their commitment to fighting this extremist group like Boko Haram has not been paired. Little has been done to curb that, and so hopefully there will be a renewed need and will to fight extremism, and all countries can come together under this umbrella that they've decided to have, so that they can realize a secure ECOWAS and also perhaps address the issues of instabilities that are now occurring from the coups that we've been seeing happening in that region.
Miriam, coming back to that, I thank you very much. That is the mode of our new show. ECOWAS said, instead of talk, or form rapid force, form this, no, we are forming a force. As soon as you touch one country, we are there with our force. Kill us all, then take the country. I think that is a bold step for ECOWAS. Ahead, moving ahead, making sure that peace returns in the West African states. Kudos to ECOWAS. Kudos to the leaders. Kudos to Nigeria. But then there is another bold step which might be negative. China says it is building the headquarters of ECOWAS. What is your view on that, Miriam? Are we safe again coming to a Cold War fight where America will also say, we shall provide you with arms to keep ECOWAS going? China has given you the school.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And it's just the other day that we were looking at, China also building Zimbabwe, its parliament, which I found to be disturbing for me as an African, because we know China does not believe in the kind of democracy that is in practice in Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe's parliament is at the heart of that country's democracy. So for China to feel, out of everything else they could have helped Zimbabwe to do, parliament will be the institution that they will choose to build and to give this country I found that to be very, very interesting. And now they're going to build the ECOWAS headquarters. And, Nigerian President Buhari and his counterparts from Guinea-Bissau and Sierra Leone, I think, were part of the ECOWAS presidents who were present when this was being commissioned. And this is also at the heart of the running of the ECOWAS activities. So we must get worried. We must be wary. There's no country which will come. And when you see the places it targets, the institutions it targets, and the kind of help it is giving, then we must stop and ask ourselves, what is at stake here? What is at stake here in this continent? It could build hospitals. ECOWAS needs that. China has a way of fighting terrorism. You don't hear terrorism in China. Perhaps they could export that knowledge here and help them. Like, there are other ways that China could have chosen to be of help that I'm sure the people of ECOWAS need. But building the headquarters for ECOWAS, building the parliament for Zimbabwe, building the African Union, headquarters, I think we should be wary. We should be wary, and nobody gives such a gift for nothing. The same way, while we were talking here, Doc, last we were having the conversation, Burkina Faso is fighting for France to leave the country. And on Thursday, I learned that Russia is already taking over some key mining sites in Burkina Faso. So Russia is not just coming to help Burkina Faso fight extremist groups for nothing. They're there for their own interests. So until we just wake up as Africans and just stop this slumber, we need to wake up and see how in the next few years all these maneuvers will cause us a lot of conflict like we've never seen in this conflict. There's nothing that is gifted for free. There's nothing.
And but Miriam, here we are going to the US. It's the same problem.
It is, and of course the move
the US is saying it will give us $55,000 billion but over a period of 3 years. That means each country in Africa, including Sahrawi, will get $1 billion across the 3 years. But what are the strings that are attached to this money? That is a bold step. We want to know. What is Africa? How conditions? Which conditions? You talk of Russia. Russia today, people are wearing Russian flags in Burkina Faso. They have made them into cloth, just as they made themselves into cloth in the French attire. Now, as you rightly say, what is the change? What is the Russian Federation going to get out of Burkina Faso? They are taking over mines.
They've been given rights to very key mining.
We don't. The only thing that the Russian government and the Burkina Faso government are saying is that they have now built a factory that will melt the gold within Burkina Faso. I think one of the minerals.
Doc, we know that that is not going to be possible, and
it might not be possible.
You can see even the countries that even Russia is targeting. I'm sure it wants to undermine French's influence in these countries, but they're very strategic countries where they have a lot to gain, as opposed to they have a lot to gain. They have key interests. So we feel like we're getting rid of one problem, but we are inviting even a bigger problem, and we will be caught up in this proxy war, in the bickering from that part of the world. It will become very present and alive in Africa, and sooner we will see conflicts like we've never seen in this continent. So we must be wary. Any good meaning person for this continent, we must be wary, and we can't just think it's business as usual. Of course, the U.S. invitation to our heads of states or leaders from Africa, it is a counter meeting, because they are indeed worried over what the influence of particularly China in this continent. So they're doing a catch-up job right now. China has been able to make strides and have a lot of influence right now. And when you look at the key things, even as we look at this ECOWAS headquarters, it is setting up, building institutions, and setting itself in a way that you're not going to get rid of China. You can't start now acting funny when it has built you, the African Union, when it has built you, your parliament. You have to, there are terms and conditions that comes to this, so you can't challenge it. In the international arena, if something comes up against China at the UN, you're not going to speak against it because you're already compromised, and we lose our sovereignty, we lose our ability to think freely, we lose our ability to express ourselves and to complain and to, because we are compromised now, and we've sold our voice and our vote on matters that are important to us. And that is the sad part, that our leadership that do not see in this continent. I think that is our sad part. And US, as much as they want to counter the influence of China, we should be allowed to choose who we want to talk to. I'm sure we can still have diplomatic ties with the US, and we can still have diplomatic ties with China. Africa should be allowed to work with whomever, different countries they feel is good for their own interest. But even as we do that, we must look at what is at stake right now. And I think the future of Africa is at stake, and we must think about it critically and see what are we giving up that is very pertinent to this continent.
That Miriam coming, that is very true, and you've made a very valid point to that position. How do you accept China to build your parliament in an independent system of Africa today, and yet China itself has no parliament? It doesn't believe in the type of democracy that you believe. It plants in gadgets within your parliament. You again accept ECOWAS headquarters, which is going to do military intelligence for African states in West Africa against terrorism. You allow China to build it. China is going to do one thing. Will plant in to listen to you every time through the iron sheets, through the wall which they are building. So do we make any bold step? As we make this bold step, it's understandable to create a rapid force to keep West Africa out of check, to make sure that West Africa is checked out of terrorism is removed. But there is a problem that we make. We always do one thing forward while we forget that we are being countermanded by another situation behind us. So Africa has been like that. Heads of state today, you saw Paul Biya this morning. Can you bring the pictures of Paul Biya last night? He was chairing a meeting in the United States of America in the US. Why has Paul Biya been allowed to go to the US but not allowed to go to Britain? Because in Britain, we have put papers that once he steps in the United Kingdom, we take him down to Belmarsh prison where he's supposed to be locked up. But the United States of America says, no, we don't care. Let him come and visit United States White House. In fact, Paul Biya is going to tell people that democracy in Africa has flourished. Miriam, he will tell people, look at Paul Biya addressing men who talk about democracy. That institute, you can't get 10 pence without being democratic. But he was addressing it. How long has he been in power? He wants more power for another 7th term, 8th term. Term number 8. And the Americans have given him a ground to speak. And in fact, on top of what he has told, this is the Africa. Which bold step do we take forward? Do you have any bold step out there? I and the Miriam, we have told you the bold steps that we know. The security situation in Uganda was a bold step. A very good bold step in Uganda for President Museveni to make security a priority. There is nowhere in Uganda that you can go and steal people's things and walk free. Somebody will intercept you. That's a bold step. Miriam has talked about education in Kenya. It's a bold step. The former president made a bold step to make sure that children go to school and each of the children gets education. A bold step. I have talked about the situation in Europe, for example. You have bold steps that have been made against Africa. But has Africa retaliated with bold steps? Has Africa, for example, you put a visa on Africa not to come to your country without a visa, with a visa restrictions. But has Africa ever told these guys and given a tough regime of visas to have come to this continent of Africa? I'm asking for many silent people. Have we, Miriam? Have we? Yeah. Have we put any, for example, if you want to go to United States of America, you need to fill every detail. If you miss one detail, the computer will reject your application. Or human being will say, we don't know how much money you earn in a day. But look at our visa forms for Kenya entry or Uganda entry for American citizens. It is as very, very normal and very easy. Like the mathematics, 1 + 1 + 2 is this, 1 + 1 is 2. There are no big questions. Nobody asks. The only tough question there on our visa applications in Africa is how much money do you have to spend? Yeah, how much money do you have to spend? How do you, for example, take a bold step to enhance your tourism, Miriam? How do you allow an American to come and change his money in your country or her money in your country, use your money and gain more of your dollar out of his dollar, enjoy your food, fruits, everything, which are natural? Why don't you tax, say, any foreign tourist coming into Zimbabwe, like a Zimbabwe, any foreign tourist paying in a hotel does not pay in Kenyan money. You pay in dollars. And those dollars, the hotels will make money. And any travel agent or any agents that tour guides, tour groups, if you are going to book people, you must book them. And if there are foreigners in that group coming from outside Africa, you tell them, sorry, we shall have to be paying in US dollars. Have you seen how a country can generate money, Miriam? Have you seen? Why do you say we have so many tourists coming for Christmas in Kenya? And I'm sure people have run away from the cold that we have here. And they are already in Kenya. But when they reach there at the airport, there is a Forex bureau. He goes with $10,000. He changes to 1 million. He reaches the hotel. He pays in local currency. You and me, the logic is very simple. Who has gained? Who has gained out of that? Who? The person who has gained is the tourist. Kenya has lost. So for me, the truth here is this, Miriam. Africa must take a bold step to change the economy, to change the sort of the status of governance, to change the status of human rights. There are some human rights violations in Africa that worry everybody who steps in on the continent of Africa. To change the habits, the old habits, to understand that there is a global world that needs all of us. So until some of the things are put towards a bold step, Africa will remain, we climb, we are brought down. That's why you see there's a very huge debate across Africa as whether leaders like Paul Biya should have gone to the United States. A very huge debate. And the huge debate is compounded with sanctions on the same day that the presidents of Africa are gathering in Washington, D.C. Miriam and the viewers, those watching us and those who will get this clip, is that more sanctions have been put on some people who are supposed to be sitting on your table. Isn't it an embarrassment, therefore, Miriam, that as you sit on your table, on that table of United States of America, you are seated on that table, and a list arrives that your son has been put on a sanction list because your son runs your companies. What do you feel as a parting shot? How do you feel?
I think you're making reference to President Mnangagwa's son.
Yes. If President Mnangagwa had gone to the US, luckily enough, he read the letter in and outside, upside down, out and in, and said, David, you have a point here, Dr. Masaka. If he had gone to the United States of America, his son, today, this morning, he would be waking up with and imagine he had gone with the same son. How do they face the people of the world or the return in Zimbabwe? So in Africa, at times, learn to know who is your friend, how we can do it, and that is the way. I have been there for friends, and I still stand for friends. Miriam, some of these things that we talk on this television, they help in some sort of governance to African heads of state. You can pick one or two things. I said here some 4 years ago that by 2022, there will be about 17 countries of Africa that will be under spotlight. And guess what? There is a new sheriff in town. And the new sheriff in town is the businessman. Is the businessman. Is the businessman who bought the buffalo. Have you heard the latest from the buffalo businessman buyer?
The Sudanese.
Yes, the man who bought.
And is willing to come to testify.
Yes.
On behalf of the president. And he said when he was buying, he did not know those were that farm was for President Cyril Ramaphosa, and he said he paid in cash. So I guess the cash was not banked yet. That's why it was still in the farm. So he said he's willing to come and testify.
You see? So this means Mr. Ramaphosa, unless there's a charge sheet that I can see coming from the South African police for having allowed huge amounts of money to be stored in a place without notifying the authorities, unless that charge sheet comes, Mr. Ramaphosa is as clean as possible and is walking home to go and receive another end of term, second term of presidency. I rest my case, and I thank all of you here, Miriam, from this side. Thank you very much for having been part and a parcel of the systems that have helped us on our new show. On Thursday, maybe, and not maybe, on Thursday, we are going to be more organized now that we know the scope of what it is. All of us, that is how we can come in, and we shall have many other people coming in to help us here and there to dissect. If you have a story anywhere where you have made a bold step, ring me and we discuss. This is Punchline Africa Television. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, back to you.